come to me before you make a decision. Make the decision, then come to me / never come to me. So like I have that process, which helps prevent me from having to come into certain problems that maybe aren't worth my time.
Today we have Gino Palomba. So Gino is a 24-year-old CEO running a virtual wholesale business on track to do $4 million this year in revenue. How are you able to manage all of these people with the culture in different time zones while you're traveling?
Yeah, exactly. It is the people. I was able to learn then, like while I was in school, to delegate. Now, with that being said, like that's the reason why I'm able to do it.
Welcome to the Zeroed In Podcast. I'm your host, John Lallande, a seasoned real estate investment expert and former Marine recon sniper. This podcast is designed for those seeking effective strategies to increase revenue growth through strategic hiring, leadership, and effective tracking. Our focus here is clear and direct. We provide actionable insights from successful founders and growth experts. Whether you're establishing a new business or aiming to scale an existing one, our episodes offer the essential advice you need for practical business growth. Lock and load, zero in, and get ready to scale. Welcome to Zeroed In. Today we have Gino Palomba. So Gino is a 24-year-old CEO running a virtual wholesale business on track to do $4 million or close to $4 million this year in revenue. So today we're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about problem solving. And most importantly, we're going to be talking about how to run a multi-seven-figure business while traveling the world. So one of the things that I love about Gino, I've known Gino for a really long time, is Gino can step out of his business. He can travel, but he is not afraid to get in his business and go on appointments. So many people, they've removed themselves and then they don't even know how to do their own job. That is not Gino. I watched him the other day go to an in-person appointment, and he can also step out. And I think he spent a lot of time last year in Europe and just traveling all over the world. So I'm really excited to jump into this. Gino, as a boss, Gino, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, so you're 24 and you've built a business that's doing, on track. I mean, you never know where it's going to end up. But right now, if you guys continue in your current projections, you'll do between $3.5 and $4 million in revenue, right?
Yes,
what
sir.
age did you start wholesaling? What age did you get into real estate?
Yeah, good question, man. I started actually in 2018 at the age of 19. So I started at 19. So 5 years now in the biz.
So when you're 19 years old, it's difficult to go to a seller and say, hey, I'm going to buy your house cash, right? Because they're like, who is this kid? He's 19, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you had to get really good at sales. That's obvious. That's the first thing I want to talk about today. Walk me through, were you always natural at sales? And if no, how did you start getting really good?
Yeah, good question, man. So, I mean, the reality is, I was 19. I had an entrepreneurial background. So when you asked me the question, was I good at sales? I felt like I was always like good at taking action and doing things. And that being also with that, it's usually the same traits around being able to talk to people, right? And, being able to communicate with people that I just meet or make friends or whatever it might be, right? So I think, that's obviously the foundation that helped me with learning more sales. I mean, like anyone else, I wasn't born good at sales or great at sales. It took time and practice and energy and, a lot of investing in coaches and learning and reading, right? So, but the foundation, to answer your question, I think what helped me start this business out and start off on a good foot into the sales role in this business particular is just that I was more of an extrovert. I enjoyed talking to people, and I always was able to hold a conversation. So I think those foundations helped me become, at least a baseline good salesperson. And then obviously you can get into the deep weeds of it, right? John, yourself, right? How little things you say can help then further on in closing deals,
So at what point did you say, I need coaching for sales? Did you jump right in, start going to in-person appointments or go calling on the phone and closing? Or did you get sales coaching right away?
Yeah, no, I went and I cold called. My first deal was a bandit sign, but prior to that and after that, all I did was cold call every day. Back then, again, this is 2018, end of 2018. I was watching a lot of Brent Daniels, Max Maxwell. Brent Daniels, really, TTP helped me a bunch. Just watching his videos and how he talked to sellers and using his scripts, right? So just doing that reps finally got me, in a position where I was comfortable. And at the end of a whole year later is when I started investing really into it. When I had some money, I invested in Steve Trang's at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, Steve Trang's mentorship to start helping me with closing deals over the phone. And, he always talks about training people to close in person, but he helped me just right there. And then again, like I said, at the end of 2019, just to build a sales process. So to answer your question, yeah, I did it for the first year on my own, just grinded hard as I could, just kept watching videos on YouTube for free, and then invested first time with Steve in 2019.
Do you think people need to go and get a coach right off the beginning, or do you think, man, if you have some tenacity behind you, you can go and make some money just off free stuff online?
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium there. I think if you have the willpower, you can 100% do anything. First off, not just sales, marketing, whatever. In this business in particular, because I know it myself, like it's pretty low barrier to entry. But to be great and to get quick results, the people I know that do the best and the fastest are the people that invest in education sooner. The sooner the better, because some people think they can solve it all. But I'll tell you, I learned a couple things which we end up teaching you, John, and some other people, like with the fact of what Ren, we hired him as a private coach. We can talk about that too later on in the end of 2021, I believe. And he opened our eyes up, and I'll bring this up for sales reason, is that he opened our eyes up to be able to pitch an MLS strategy to a seller. Now that was also Eric Brewer around the same time, but that right there opened our whole business up, and there was no way in heck I was going to learn that by myself, because I never even knew that was possible. So like certain avenues like that, if you want to start out, you can 100% start this business. If you're really in sales, if you really want to go after it and get after it. But if you want quick results, you want speed, it's not a given, but if you invest in someone, you for sure can see a lot of, quicker growth.
Do you remember what your first year looked like in wholesaling? Year 1, year 2, year 3, and now?
Yeah. I mean, year one for me was my first deal was November 2018. So in 2019, I actually had a partner at the time. We did $220,000. I don't know how many deals. I just remember that. The following year, we did like 650,000. And so I guess that would be in 2020. In 2021, we did 1.8. And then 2022, it was like 2.3. Last year, it was just a little bit north of that. So
you guys were able to triple your business every year, right? And then obviously as you got bigger, started to get close to double. Not everybody does that, right? Most people don't. Why were you guys able to do that and other people stay stuck at, a good, bigger company, right? They're shooting for 10% growth.
Yeah, now we've hit that a little bit. We've hit that where we're at. But to answer your question, how we were able to do it, one big thing that's helped us was the market at that time too. We're facing 2019, 2020, 2021. Really, how much did we really do? At the end of the day, obviously a lot of it, we've learned over the time we got better, but did we get 3 times better? If you really ask yourself that, looking back, it's shit, man, the market just freaking dominated for us, looking back on it now, if I had the team and what I know, and everyone says this, obviously it sounds like I'm already the old grandpa that says, go back and invest in go back, if I was where you were, but I actually had that same idea, just 3 years ago, the business, it was a lot easier to make money. So I'll first say that there's nothing truthfully that I would, I'm not going to take all the credit for it. Right. But I think the next thing, if we were to give credit, is just coaching. To spend a lot of time and money with people that were doing it at a higher level, and still till today we do that, and just seeing how they progress and how they do certain things. Like I've already mentioned, listing stuff on MLS, that obviously had a big, jump for our business. And that was in 2022. Now, we all know what happened in 2022 in June. Around that point, the market went to shit. It went, completely dumped, right? And so for us to still do more revenue than we did the last year, I think was just because we stayed alive with the strategies that we pulled, that we learned from and how we became there. Because if we didn't do that, a lot of people, you probably know, John, but I knew a lot of people in 2022, 2023, no longer even wholesaling because of what happened.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that, first of all. Because there are so many people that they're not even in their business anymore, right? They might be full-time selling coaching because they made money in 21 and 22 and they made it, it was easy. And they were like, well, I'm the shit. I'm the best there is. But I love that Gino's a huge part of that was the market, which is true. Now, maybe the market helped him. Now he's able to sustain that now, which is an entire different story.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, and you'll see these, the ones that aren't even doing business anymore, but they had a lot of success in 2021 and 2022 when it was easy. Like I know us personally, we were barely focusing on our business and still stumbling over money just because you could lock up a property at 90% of whatever Zillow says and then sell it for 105, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or more. And we can't do that anymore. So how are you pivoting, and how did you pivot? What changed when the market started to change? You know, buyers are no longer buying like crazy. All the hedge funds left.
Yeah.
And some of them are starting to come back. But how did you pivot during that time when the market started changing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we took some hits. We lost a lot of money in certain months. So, I mean, we're not perfect, right, on what we did. I think what did help us, though, to sustain, you know, and help us even in that time, like I said, we did grow year to year, was using that strategy, listing on the MLS, right? Because what happened, right? Interest rates went up. We all know that. And initially that quickly dried up the buyer pool, right? People couldn't even afford, they can't qualify for a loan to buy a $350,000 house that we had for sale. But luckily enough, you know, people that traditionally in wholesale selling to flippers, those people dried up completely, right? You had your 15,000 people on your buyers list, maybe 1,000 people open the email, and maybe, you know, really truthfully 10 people want to see the property, if that, like those numbers. But for us, because we're able to put on the MLS, it did hurt us, right? Because we are dealing with conventional buyers, but at the same time, we still had it in front of 30,000 people looking on the MLS. And so, like I said, it didn't, I'm not saying we had a better time during that time of the market, but at the same time, we still were able to sell a lot of our deals. We didn't flip, so that protects us a lot. I know a lot of people that flipped, they got burned bad over that 3-4 month span from June to September, you know, even the winter time, right? So that helped us. But going forward, since that point, it's really focused on our team, and truthfully is not growing and trying to scale the team as fast as possible. Because a lot of people, they chase that, and that's what we were doing. We were positioning our team, funny enough, like a lot of people I know, in June of that 2022, hiring a lot more people ready to staff up and go harder. And at that time, we thought that meant more people and just necessarily spending more money on marketing versus what it should be is looking at how good of our conversions are before we spend more money on marketing. We don't need to spend, you know, another $10,000 to get a deal. If instead of spending the money, what we do is don't spend the money and spend our energy on putting our closing percentage from 12% to 15%, right? That's a 25% increase versus doing, spending 25% more money. So, that's what we started implementing, really looking hard into that. Same thing with people. If you got your people a little bit better, you don't need to hire 2 more people. Now, at the same time, with that being said, we let go of a lot of our B players, C players, D players. We made sure that, especially in the lead management side of it, we're only hiring A players and we're only focusing on that. And that's what we've kind of kept. And, I've kept over the last 2 years. And now we're starting to see that coming in. I'm still looking at, you'll see me post a lot more people. But at the same time, now looking back at our business, where do I want to be? Where do I want to go? At that time in 2022, we had a goal to hit like 7 million, right? We were going to go from 1.8 or 1.8 to, 7 million. And it was like, we thought, again, it's as easy as that, but obviously the market didn't help us. But at the same time too, we were just, overshooting ourselves and trying to scale too quick like other people were that we knew. And because of that, a lot of those people aren't in business right now, or their business suffered heavily the last couple of years. And so I quickly saw that and, we adjusted. And now this past year, really truthfully, the last year and this year, we're really focused on not trying to overwhelmingly grow revenue, but instead focus on just profitability and consistency and, being able to convert correctly. So you asked me again, full circle, what we're doing is just focus on conversions, focus on what we want to make, right? What I want to make net as the CEO, what do I want to make net for the company, how many people we want to help. And from that point forward, you can kind of see and this, John, a lot of people, you will probably won't be the last wholesale on your podcast, probably not the first one either, and definitely not going to be the highest revenue guy ever, right? You talked about, all right, our goal is 4 million. We'll do 400 this month. We have goals to hit a little bit higher, but let's say we're around that 4 million. I know good friends that just did 6 million last year, and the fact of the matter is what goes into having a huge business, and not saying 4 million is not a huge business, but what goes into that is profitability. And I've experienced it first come, first serve. A lot of those years, especially 2022, profitability wasn't much, right? Yeah. And so you people say, I want to chase that business. For me, all back full circle to your thing. What did I learn? I learned I need to have a business that fits me, profitable, and being able to considerable amount of money into my pocket versus me just chasing revenue and just say grow 3x, right? And so, that's what I've been focused on. And it starts with people. It starts with, being able to, house the resources. But
it takes a level of maturity to say that, right? Because everyone wants to ego chase revenue. I've been there too. I mean, I can't even say that I still don't do it. Like, obviously I definitely do, but everybody wants to ego chase revenue. And at the end of the day, if you look at your business on how it grows, if you're just chasing revenue, that means you're taking more from your profit and putting it into marketing, hiring, turnover, all of those things, right? And so you might see somebody that's making, they're $6 million in revenue and they're at 10% profit margins.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They're walking away with $600K at the end of the year. Honestly, you might as well just go get a sales job. You can make $600,000 with way less stress. You don't have nearly as much risk. Or you can do a $2 million a year business at 40% profit margin, yep. Right? And you can make more money. Literally, at the end of the day, exactly. You can make more money. So I love that you said that. I love that you're focusing on that. And I think so many people, if you're in another space, right? If you're in another industry, or maybe you're listening to this and you haven't even started your business, and you hear that, Gino's doing 4 million, like we did $240,000 last month, and you're like, oh man, I can't imagine what I would do with $240,000. Well, first of all, we have payroll, we have salaries, exactly. We have marketing expenses. We're not walking away with $240. We're not walking away with $400,000 a month, right?
No.
And the bigger you scale, the more expense, like the faster you want to scale, it means you're spending more on marketing. You probably have more, salary employees.
Yeah, way
so
more.
I love that. Right. And I love what Gino's saying is he's trying to figure out. He doesn't need to make $1 million a month this year, right? Mm-hmm. He's trying to figure out how can he, build a business around him that fits his lifestyle, that gives him the money that he needs, which I love that. Now, on that, you mentioned something that was interesting, focusing on your conversions, right? It might sound easy to get your sales team up 2%, right? 2% from 13% to 15%.
Yeah.
I know firsthand it's not that easy. So what are you doing right now to actually get your sales team to convert that 2% better?
Yeah, look, man, we've talked about already a couple of times. Like I'm obviously always trying to get better and never perfect, right? But some things we've done. So I have sales directors. I have a lead manager director and acquisition manager director. I give those guys all the
props, right?
Yeah, give them all of it, right? They're the reason that the departments are successful. If it's bad, it's my fault. I'll take the blame on it, right? And it's just because what we're constantly doing, John, is to get our conversions up, is just changing things, adjusting things, changing how we do things. And again, like I said, I'm not the best at it. I'm trying to do better at it. But for example, is like, we have our survey calls. We've talked to you about that before, right? For the people listening, every time we complete an offer call, we're all virtual over the phone, 95%. And we complete an offer call. We give a seller an offer. That's when we say it's completed. We give them an offer. If we don't lock them up, they need to go initially get live transferred or set up for a survey call. Now, we tell them a customer service representative's calling them. It's another acquisition manager. And that goal of that acquisition manager is to actually figure out and uncover, why did this person not go with us? Sometimes, it's as easy as price. That's the majority of them. But you'll see that sometimes these sellers' prices will change when they talk to another person. That's the customer service rep, right? Because their emotions and their guard is down talking to a customer service rep versus a home buying specialist. So we'll do these survey calls. And John, we were talked about doing these. I've been doing them for about 2 or 3 years. But truthfully, in the last 6 months, we really haven't focused on it, right? We have a measurement. We see it on our dashboard. Do we actually do it though? Yeah, like 20% versus, 85% of the goal. So point being is that's one thing we started implementing a lot more to get in there. Marcus, who's the AM director, he's listening to all calls now, all appointments completed. He listens to, dissects them, right? Talked to one of my other mentors. We were kind of talking about their company before we went on. And he said now what he's doing is he's auditing every appointment that's set up and completed, and seeing where is it at after it is completed. Did it get followed up with? Did it get called? Did it get texted? Did it get put on a drip? Did this person hit the pane? He's listening to the call, right? So little things like this. I know it sounds like a lot, but little things like this to try to boost just an extra deal or extra 2 deals a week, contracts a week. That's how you get it up, right? And so it's just kind of doing these little things like that, just helping with the conversions. And going back, and here's a big one too, is going back and, how we have our business set up is that we don't have an analyst that gives comps out. It's the other AMs will comp the other person's property if it gets put in, right? Because we have 4 AMs. And so the other 3 will comp the guy's appointment for him if he's getting a live transfer, because we do live transfers virtually where like instantly the AM's on the phone. And so that way he doesn't have to worry about comping properties. It's the other AMs giving him the comps, the market value. So anyway, I'll review that too. And even though I'm not in that director role, Marcus does too, but I'll review and say, hey, did they get all the market values right? A lot of the times they might be short in it, but sometimes they're also, short on it. Sometimes they're undervaluing it. I'm like, oh, shoot, go lock that up, right? And I was saved like a $40K deal doing that like a month ago. So it's like little things like that. John, you asked me how we increase conversions. It's little things like that I see where you can do it.
As on the process calls or the survey calls, are you seeing, what are your numbers on that? Like out of 100 survey calls, we get an additional 2 contracts?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. And we've actually never really truthfully measured it. That would be a really good question. I've always talked about doing it, and I just never got to the point where I told them to measure it. And like I said, we haven't done it the last 6 months really like we should. But I've known like off the top of my head 5 to 6 that we've at least gotten off that in the last year or 2.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And you got to think, I mean, that alone, that simple thing, getting 5 to 6 deals, average profit per deal, around 25K, maybe more.
35 for us. Yeah.
35,000, right? That's a lot of revenue that you just brought on from that one simple thing. So that's incredible. Your acquisitions director, is he a performing acquisitions director, or is he just, he is?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. He's performing. So he works, similar hours. He's working just as hard. He's completing stuff. Obviously he has a little bit different time to doing reviewing calls, but yeah, he's a working acquisition director. So is my lead manager director.
So they have their own pipeline, and they're also managing a sales team.
Yeah.
How have you found that working for people? Because I know that some people, like for me personally, even when I try to wear both hats, I end up being kind of mediocre at both. How have you found that to work out for him?
Yeah, I mean, so both of them, LM and AM director, they're both like that. The LM director has been doing it for 3 years, and he's, one of the top LMs still. And AM director, this month, he's not as high as performing, but you don't want to bring your best closer in to be the manager, right? So, Marcus he loves teaching. Who's our AM. He loves giving value. And so I noticed that from the beginning. He was always great feedback. This is one way how I measured it is like, if I'm going to give up this role like I did, I want to see how they give feedback to certain calls. And then I'll share my feedback. And so every time he would give feedback, this is one way I measured it. And I was told by my mentors, like, how close was he in terms of feedback to me? And he was almost identical, like every single thing, that I would give feedback. Again, we would role play, listen to a call, whatever it is. And what's your feedback? And he would say all the stuff I would. So how is it working for us? So far, so good. It's been about 1.5 years since he's been with us, but it's been but it's probably been since July of last year. So 7 months. And the teams right now, I mean, they put up 21 last month. This month's a little slower at like 15, but we'll be at it again. We'll be at it.
I love it. And so when you said he was able to give the same feedback as you, it's always difficult. How were you able to get him to that point? Did you work with him? Did you give him more attention? Did he pick up on it quicker? How did he get to that point?
Yeah, I would say cumulative of both. He was so when he joined our team, he was already in the business. He did try it on his own. And later he figured out that it was, better for him to be working with the team. And so I think he quickly kind of understood the role, right? Because he did it. And so he was quick on our team to get up. Again, he started November 2022. And so it was 7 months later, he took over that director role, but he already had 7 months in our business,
So he's an A player. What is an A player? You mentioned earlier that you let go of all of your B players. What is an A player, and how do you know I've got an A player or a B player when you don't have a big team and you just maybe have 1 or 2 reps? How do you know if they're an A player or a B player?
Yeah, I think it just evolves, right? Obviously, that's a good question, because if I was starting out, I remember hiring this one person on my team, this lead manager, and he was from Nicaragua. And I hired him, and I was like, this is the best guy I've ever seen in my life. Because I was so used to getting like Filipino VAs with accents and stuff and like complaining. Yeah. He was like, I'm grinding nonstop, and he's going. And I remember being like, this is my A player. And I look back at it now, and I was like, Nah, he's like a C minus at best. So it progressed on your standards, right? So it's like, if you ask me that tomorrow, tomorrow will probably be similar, but if you ask me that in 2 years, I'm going to be different, right? And I think it takes, you getting these people, and you say, how do you know if you have one? Like you know right away. And John, you probably experienced hiring people. You're like, holy crap. This person not only has all my core values, right? That's what we're hiring them based off of. But this person always also has the capacity to do it. They have the knowledge to do it, right? They actually know what they're talking about. And that's what we want. That's what I'm focusing on now. I was talking earlier about is just trying to get these A players on our team that I don't necessarily have to train. I want them to come in day one better than me. Right? That's why I'm hiring them. So whatever role that is. Now, it's not always perfect. Always sometimes, you might say, hey, look, this one I can groom to be someone great because I see their background. And that happens still to today. But the point of it being is like, if there's someone in there for me, an A player, someone that has all their core values, again, like I stated, and then also can do it better than me and has the work ethic, and that goes with our core values, but work ethic and attitude to be able to considerably, do that for a considerable amount of time, right? And enjoy it. That's the biggest thing.
You said core values twice, which I love. And this is something that I've struggled with until, I got slapped in the face by a coach of like, well, what are your core values? And I started going off of them, and I was kind of stuttered over my core values at one point. I was like, they're like this. He's like, bro, if you don't know your core values, your team definitely doesn't know your core values. And so why do you even have them? Right? It was a slap, right? It was a hard slap, but I remember that moment got me better. So what do you do if you've got somebody that's an A player? Like they seem like they're great, right? They're like, they're closing, they have a good history, but they're not a core value fit. What do you do then?
I just would hire them, man.
No hiring at all. What about if you find out they're a core value later?
Yeah, I wouldn't hire them. We have an intricate test, right, where we try to weed people out, hiring process, and we try to weed them out. It starts with the core values, and they have an interview with our hiring director. And what they'll do is they'll ask them certain questions to figure out if they are committed, and I haven't done it in, a year and a half, but I have these program questions. I could find them right now, but ask these certain questions that, would trigger and see how their response. And based on that, this girl's done it enough, our hiring director, that she would know, that this person has it, or, they might be faking it, but you'll figure out pretty damn quick, right? If they are, if you hire them. So, asking them intricate, it's like 3 questions each core value. We got commitment, integrity, growth, mindset. There's 3 questions on each of those. And then based on their responses, you can get a pretty good answer if they're bullshitting or what, and if they're saying the right things.
And so you mentioned recently, you had to let go of your B players, right?
Yeah.
How did that change your business when you let go of the people that are your B players? And then I have a follow-up question to that. Were you nervous at all when you have these B players and you're like, man, maybe they're not the best, but they are throwing up revenue, they are doing X, Y, Z, like maybe I shouldn't be letting them go. Did you have that hesitancy at all, or were you?
Yeah, for sure. And this was really in 2022, like summer 2022, when we let go like 4 people in like 2 weeks, the most ever we did. But yeah, these were people that were like, I have the hesitancy, right? Because I went from like 8 a.m. or LMs to 4. And so I'm like, oh shoot, like how much is that really going to hurt us more than help us? And then at the one point, our LM director, I believe we had this convo, and he was just like, look, let's just clean them out. Like if we're going to do it, let's do it and let's commit to it. And so he really talked myself out of it and him out of it too. We kind of helped each other both. We're like, all right, let's do this. Right. But to answer your question, of course you do. You got to evaluate every risk return on every decision you make. Right. And that's what I'm trying to do now, is make as little decisions as possible. I saw Jeff Bezos said that, make as little decisions in a day as possible that have the most value and most effect. So like that's my goal, monthly, weekly, daily. And that one right there is one of them. Is just like, look, let's clean house. We have enough team to do it. Still, we feel like with systems and processes, we can make up for those 4 people we lost and what they were performing and how they were performing.
Do you have a system for problem solving things like that, or just problem solving in general? Do you have a process that you go through your brain, or how do you go about doing that?
I wish I did. But my thing was like identify, discuss, solve, right? Identify the problem, discuss it, and solve it, right? Now, with my directors, though, I have certain things, and I have it with one of my directors specifically, because he's always, me and him were always pretty closely talking. But, I have the document that states, hey, come to me before you do this thing, and never tell me about it, or do the thing and then tell me about it later. So like I have that process, which helps prevent me from having to come into certain problems that maybe aren't worth my time.
What does that process look like?
Yeah. So for example, I hope this answers your question, but like my dispo director is one of them, right? And I say, look, if it's not a problem that is not going to make us or generate us, I'm not talking about a price reduction. I'm talking about a problem that's not going to, or that's going to cost us like more than 15 grand, then don't come to me for it. You can make that decision on your own. So like if it's, hey, we have to credit them 4 more grand, close the buyer because of their lender. Well, I trust that the guy, our dispo director is going to be able to know, like he's not trying to lose money on a deal. So I'm going to trust him that he's done everything he can. And it's the best choice to go with that guy to take our 4K, lose 4K or not lose it, but give it up. So like, I don't want to be bothered by that because again, I got you in that position and it's stuff I'm working on still today to keep doing this in every department. But like, I got you in that position because I trust you can make the right decision. You obviously get incentivized based on revenue. So it's not like I'm telling them take the price reductions and, off from buyers and just don't even, so he's obviously trying the best he can not to do that. But if he gets there, don't come to me because I already trust you did everything you could. Right. So that's one example. Right? That's the one that's like, don't come to me, just do it. Another one's like, do it, then come to me. I think it's like, if it's over 15K, then do it and then come to me, or like 10 to 15 to do that. And then 15K plus, it's just like, come to me before we make that decision. You know what I mean? If it's to put some more work in a house. Now that's rarely ever happens. Like I rarely happens. Now at the same time, you got to know who your director is. At that point, it's not like, don't ever talk to me. His personality type, he's a promoter on the PI, predictive index. So he's more sociable, or he's not as independent as other, people. So he wants to collaborate more on decisions. And so like, if he has a tough one, like we talk about it, I talk with him through some problems. Like, hey, for example, this lady, I actually had to go today to it because he lives in Texas. I'm Georgia. So I was helping him out. This old lady, I posted about it on my Instagram over the weekend, but he got her to a price reduction of 150, 200 to 150. Property was in way worse condition. She never let me inside the house. It's actually one of my in-person ones. That one that you might have saw. So we went in there, went to the house. She didn't want us in. She's like, my dog's not feeling good, this and that. It was an older lady, probably like 70, and I didn't want to force her. So anyway, we locked it up, told her though, like, look, if we go inside, it needs more work. Like, are you opposed to going, lower in price? Because there might be a chance. And she said, no, I agree if there's more work than, what you guys think. And so long story short, he got a 50K price reduction from her. She signed, I went to get the amendment signed last week. All fine. She loved me, right? And then I get a call Saturday from the daughter, and it's going to lead into one of the ways that we kind of combine and make decisions. But he gave a price reduction, and she tried to call Brad. Brad was at a father-daughter dance. Actually, it was Friday, sorry. And he was at a father-daughter dance. And then I called. I was like, all right, fuck it. Let me call. Because he's like, she's calling me. Can you take it? And I thought it was going to be just them saying, yeah, we're excited for closing. And there was a daughter that called me and was like, you're scamming my mom. You're scamming her. You're screwing her over. I was like, anyway, I had to settle it down. After about an hour and 15 minutes, she finally was like, all right, well, could you get me more money? And at this point, we're making like 45 grand on the deal. I'm like, all right, well, I'll save the deal if it meant like this. It was about 30 minutes of that first hour was her just saying, I'm suing you / just cancel it after everything I said. So I finally got her off that. Not to make a long-winded story, I helped Brad out. We problem solved. Went today to get it signed, and we got the amendment. We came up some money, but got it done. And so certain things like that is what we'll collaborate together. We'll bounce each other off, but that's just because I know them. But building that with your team to note that, hey, look, don't come to me if this happens. And this is what your director should do too. And I try to tell mine as well. Is like, look, you should have the same thing. Again, come to me before you make a decision. Make the decision, then come to me / never, come to me. Make the decision, never come to me, right?
I love that. And I want to dive in just a little bit. I know it's kind of granular here, but every single wholesaler, flipper, if you are good enough at sales, at some point, you're going to buy a property so steep that someone else is going to get upset, right?
Yeah.
And even if you're uncovering all the deal killers, all the decision makers, right? There's always this other person that's not really a decision maker, but they get involved. So, and they want to kill it. It's happened to us multiple times. What did you say to her that made her say, hey, I want you to cancel and I'm going to sue you. So I'm going to work with you. How did that 180 happen?
Yeah, no, you're good. So yeah, the lady I was talking to, it was a crazy story. First 30 minutes, she was, again, like I said, just telling me that she's cancel. And I told her, I was like, look, to get her to, know that we're not trying to scam her or her mom. It's just like, I wouldn't be talking to you at 8 p.m. on a Friday. I wouldn't, you wouldn't look at our website right now. Like, and you see 85 reviews, 5 stars, like on Google, like what else do you need to see to make you feel more comfortable? And she's, she's at that stage where she's like, nothing. You guys are just trying to do blah, 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 blah. You're scamming my mom. And I said, look, like I said, I wouldn't talk to you if I was here. Then again, the first 30 minutes came. What really helped it too was when I said to her, look, all right, this is what might happen next. If you decide not to work with me or work with us, even though we're set up, what next will happen, my boss is what he's going to do. He's going to file a notice of interest on your property. You'll never be able to sell it again. Right. So your mom will never be able to sell it again. I don't want that to happen. But 2, the next thing with that is we'll also file a list pendants as a lawsuit on the property. Now, because you guys agreed to it, you got your price, you got, agreement with your mom. It was really the daughter that's acting like this, right? The mom loved me and she didn't care as much. She was loving me. But the daughter was like this and, like giving me feedback. And I told her that. And then she quickly said, well, okay. So if we canceled this, we're not going to be able to sell. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want you guys to feel uneasy. What do you need to see to make me feel more comfortable? I asked it again. And she says, well, I want to make sure that your attorney is not, is working with both of us or something like that, And I was like, that's what the agreement says. Let me read it to you. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I feel better now. I think the real thing was just a notice of interest and stuff, right? She quickly flipped and she's like, can I get more money? And she says, we want 200,000 like the agreement says. We want 200,000. And I told her, look, what if my boss could get 165 approved somehow? I don't know how he would, but if he did. And she said, we would take it. Actually, she said she wanted 175. And the next day I texted her and said 165. So we just settled at 165 and, or 160. Yeah, 165 and that's where we're at now. So to answer your question, what did it? I mean, it took a while, but I think a lot of it paired with the memorandum was just telling her like, look, we're not in the business to scam people. That's why we have these reviews. We can show those reviews. If you want proof of funds, we can show that to you. I've said that to her. She didn't ask for it, but if I wouldn't have gone there to scam anyone. I got too many people to worry about and deal with, to scam people. I have 85 reviews. It's the most important thing to us. I wouldn't do that. So just stuff like that, little sales, showing her the actual facts.
Man, I love that. And there's 2 things that I love about that. Number 1 is you're running a $400,000 a month business, right? At least you just hit 400K. And you're at dinner on a Friday night with your family and you're willing to step out. And some people will look at that and they're like, oh, I don't want my life running my business. Like, motherfuckers, that's what it takes sometimes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, so many people are just so soft these days that they feel like they might be too good to go and step out. But sure, that was a $35,000 call that you stepped out, or $40,000, whatever it was that you guys made on the deal. But on top of that, what you just did is you just set a standard for your team that this can be done. Right? That this can be done on a Friday night when the seller calls and they're saying they're going to sue you and they're going to cancel the agreement. They want more money. Like that one little thing, I mean, that just sets such a high standard for the rest of your team. If the CEO is willing to step away from a dinner. So man, I love that you did that, the first thing. And then the second thing is being able to tactfully get what they need, right? So you figure out what they want, you get what they need, and what do they need to see happen to be able to make this make them feel comfortable, right? And still while dropping in a little bit of the hammer, right? You drop
put the little hammer in.
I don't want to do this. Hey, we're on the same time. I don't want to do this, but you dropped a little bit of the hammer, and at the end of the day, you were able to get to the end result. So that's awesome, man. Now, good stuff, dude. So I guess the last question that I have for you, and this is something that we haven't spoken about at all, is you've been able to do this, and I've seen you in Europe, I've seen you in Japan, I've seen you in the Caribbean, right? Like you've been all over. So how are you able to manage all of these people with the culture, right? And in different time zones while you're traveling?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I mean, first, it is the people. I started this, like we talked about earlier, like I started this when I was 19. I finished school. I did graduate. I finished at 22 when I was 22. And I was able to learn then, like while I was in school. I mean, like I said, our business did 600,000 the year it did 1.8 the year I graduated. So I built a team around that. I was lucky enough, it forced me to build a team. Like I had to outsource people when I was in college, right? Not that I was really focusing in school more than 5 hours a week, but at the same time, just because of the classes I had to go to. But at the same time, it taught me to delegate. Now, with that being said, like that's the reason why I'm able to do it. And when I go to these places, like John, you mentioned, I spent about 4 months last year total, bouncing around Europe at different times. Like you said, I went to Japan, the Caribbean, Africa, certain parts there. Only went to Africa for a day, so I probably shouldn't have put that in there, but went there for a day of delegating. No, it was a great team, but I do still go in there and I still have my critical meetings. Right now, if you look on my schedule, set per week, I try to keep it limited, but there's about 7 hours worth of meetings, 5.5 to 7, depending how long some run. So that's what it leaves me. So I still do work there, but at the same time, I only do those calls because I love them. I enjoy them. That's why I've taken some away. And just put these specifically there. The team, like I said, you asked me how do we do it. The team, the ability to be able to run the virtual side of it obviously allows us a lot better than me having to be in an office and having control people. But I don't want to go beat around and keep saying the same thing, but I would say the team is what allows us. Because my fiance is also the TC director, so she works a little harder than me on these trips. And to be honest, Japan was the laziest I've ever worked in terms of, I still did some of my calls, if not all of them, but it's like 14-hour time change. So that one was the tough one though to hit on.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Are you working at night? You're just working at
so that one, I just limited my meetings. I did our win meeting, which is our biggest level 10 meeting. And truthfully, I just talked to our guys. Like you said, it's 14 hours ahead. So their 9 a.m. was 11 p.m. So my time. So yeah, it was a rough 10 days, but I still went to bed. I just did a lot of my stuff, did Loom videos, certain things like that. But again, it's all because I had the great team. I wouldn't have been able to do jack if not.
So what's the vision moving forward? All right. You've got a stable business. You've obviously proven that you guys can sustain through market changes because you've been able to grow during a market change, and you've also been able to travel. You've got a lot of time freedom. Are you hoping to build this business out to be the biggest business ever? $100 million a year assignment business? I've never even heard of anyone doing that yet. But yeah, what's the goal for you?
Yeah, no, my goal for this wholesaling business is to grow at a consistent rate. I would be happy going 10% for your answer, but no, it's not to be the biggest business. I don't want to be doing $1 million a month. If you asked me today, I'd put that. I was on Steve's podcast, Steve Trang, and we talked about, I don't want to be $1 million business because it's what we talked about earlier. I know people that are doing it or trying to do it. People you need, the marketing money you need to spend, which I'm not afraid to spend marketing money. That's the last thing actually that worries me. It's the people you need. It's the processes you need. It's the risk that you have to put out there for anything and time change. All this goes in. And like I said, a lot of people, they just they revenue chase and, comparisons to thief of joy. But some of these guys that are up there, like what you're saying, 10% profitable, right? If that. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to put all that energy, and they might have partners, and they got partners, they got 1, 2, 3 partners. Then where are you at with it? Then it's like, all right, man, look, for that energy and stress, I'd rather do like we talked about. I don't know if it was before or when we were on, but it's like, I'd rather do the $4 million a year and be 30% profitable versus 10. I make a 1.2 million. I have no partners with me. All right. And 30% is even being on the lower side, but let's say 30%, $1.2 million profit, and you have no partners. And so the only reason I bring that up, not that it's bad to have a partner, but you have no partners. So you make all the 1.2 and your life is a lot more manageable. And not that you can't outsource people. That's what I've done to get to where I'm at, but you're enjoying your life. And that's where I want to be, John, and then be able to use my time. Like I said, there's 7 hours a week that I really go into meetings. And like I said, sometimes even less than that. The other 45, 50 hours, I'm working still. Don't make you say that I'm not. I'm working nonstop more than I don't say more than anyone because we all work. There's no such thing as I work more than you. But I try to work on very high level stuff, but I need to do a better job. So my true vision now is to take this business, keep it like it is, growing at a rate where there's still money coming in, obviously consistently, but also where there's growth. Growth mindset's our company. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to go from 4 million to 8 million, but keep us growing, keep us in the good path, but focusing on bigger revenue things, going to some bigger multifamily deals, bigger commercial deals, whatever it means. Because like I said to you too earlier, I like solving problems. I think that's what I really like focusing on now. It's not, I'll be honest, we've taught and helped a lot of people. It's not my passion to do it. I love giving people insight, but like when I was a part of, and I still am a part of Level Up, right? And still in some capacity, still ownership level. It's just like, for me, like to consistently have a schedule to help and help people, I love and enjoy. So again, it's kind of contradicting myself, but at the same time, when it feels more of like a job more than something you love doing, that's when it's like, I want to be able to work on bigger problems and solve those deals and do certain things. And that's what the difference between, obviously, Chandler, he has that huge passion for it. And obviously, if anything, he's better than me in terms of that, the ethics of that. But for me, it's like, you see on Instagram, I post everything. Let me not say that too. It's not like I don't enjoy it and I don't want to help people, but at the same time, I love solving big problems. And if it's John's big problems, I love doing that too. But like, I don't like working in the weeds of other people's business as much as my own. You know what I mean? So if that's selfish or not, but I guess you can call me selfish.
So. Yeah, you might be helping other people. Like, you're still helping people, right? You might be helping your people on your team. You might be helping the people in your company. And there's these, I was having a conversation with a friend that everybody, gets to $1 million and then leaves and then goes and coaches because it's more fulfilling, right? But it's not everybody. We were just talking about a couple of the guys that they stay quiet. Like, for example, name drop the owner of the company, Seller's Advantage, and they stay quiet and they are killers, right? You don't see them. They have a radio stuff, but you don't see them like doing these giant masterminds and coaching programs and stuff like that. There are people that just love to do the work, that love to execute, even still in the weeds with their team, helping out. And I think there's just like to each. Some people really love to coach and help. Some people like to get in the weeds and do the action. So. That's one of the things I love to try to find people when I was thinking about the avatar for this podcast is people like you that get in the business and do the work and aren't just preaching it, right? Not afraid to make a phone call. You're teaching people how to do the actionable items that build a business, right? So, man, that's been awesome so far. So, Gino, I know you're big on Instagram, man. You've got your own group, but where can people find out more about you if they want to learn from you? They want to learn some of the things that you've done. How can they reach out to you? How can they find out more about you?
Yeah, man, they can reach out to me. It's Gino, Gino.Palomba, Palomba on Instagram and YouTube. I got to get back on the grind, but Instagram, I'm posting every day, some stuff. And if you're looking at possibly joining the team, a lot of our team members, like I mentioned earlier, they started on their own and realized it was better just to learn on someone else's dime. If you're interested, hit me up on Instagram and hopefully we can work together.
Awesome, man. Dude, this has been so fun. Love seeing what you're doing. Love seeing that you're crushing it out there, traveling and focused on good profit margins. So I appreciate you coming on, man. And we'll stay in touch.